What would happen if the forest you are standing in could see you? Not as a metaphor, but as a matter of survival rooted in the beliefs of a community that has lived deep within the Amazon rainforest for thousands of years. They are the Yanomami, people who believe that the forest is not only alive, but also capable of memory, emotion, and self-protection. The Yanomami live in more than 200 autonomous villages along the border between southeastern Venezuela and northern Brazil, in a part of the Amazon rainforest where the boundary between human life and the natural world has never been sharply defined. In these areas, there are no paved roads, power lines, or constant mechanical noise. There is forest, rivers, wind, and people who learn to pay attention to them from the moment they are born. They live in shabono, large, circular communal houses built from wood and palm leaves, without internal walls or locked doors. Families are not separated from one another, but share a single open space, where people see each other every day, share food, warmth, and daily life, like different parts of the same body. Their mornings do not begin with alarm clocks, but with sunlight filtering through the canopy, the calls of birds, and the smell of cooking fires blending into the humid air of the forest. They hunt when conditions allow, gather what is in season, plant bananas and cassava in rotating cycles, and move on when the soil begins to lose its fertility, allowing the land time to recover without force. There is no concept of long-term accumulation, and no idea of permanent ownership. Everything exists in a temporary state, sufficient and balanced. Children grow up within the community, learning to read animal tracks, sense shifts in the wind, and notice changes in the forest before the rain arrives. For the Anomy, living is not about conquering nature, but about maintaining a fragile yet meaningful relationship with it. They do not ask how much the forest can give, but quietly consider whether humans have taken too much, because if the forest becomes exhausted, they know they will not be able to continue living either. From this way of living, a different way of seeing the world gradually takes shape. The deeper one goes into the daily life of the Anomy, the more fragile the boundary becomes between what is considered real and unreal. For them, the world is not a flat surface where humans exist separately from nature, but a dense web of invisible connections, where every action leaves an echo that extends far beyond the present moment. Within this perspective, the human body is not understood as flesh and bone alone, but as a meeting point between multiple layers of reality. For this reason, the markings that appear on Yanomami bodies each day are not decorative. They signal a shift in state, a way for individuals to adjust themselves so they do not drift away from the order of the forest. The red pigment, made from urucum seeds, is associated with life, energy, and strength. The black, derived from charcoal and tree resin, evokes darkness, spirit, and aspects of reality that cannot be seen with the naked eye. These markings are applied using fingers, small wooden sticks, or plant fibers, forming simple shapes such as lines, dots, broad areas, or parallel patterns, yet they are never random. The face, chest, shoulders, arms, and legs each hold specific meanings, connected to mental states, roles within the community, or preparation for hunting, rituals, or mourning. Each act of painting represents a different way of being, reflecting inner change and the relationship between the person and the forest. In the Yanomami worldview, the body is not a closed entity, but a place of movement and exchange, where unseen forces are believed to interact with the visible world. The markings help individuals regulate themselves, feel protected, and understand their place within a larger cosmic order. For the Yanomami, the body is not only a means of survival, but a way of expressing one's position within a living world. At the deepest level of the Anomy worldview, the forest is no longer understood as a space surrounding human life, but as a broader form of awareness, within which humans are only a small and fleeting presence. For them, reality does not end with what the eyes can see or the hands can touch. The physical world is only the surface of a deeper structure, one in which all forms of life coexist across multiple layers of presence. In this understanding, the forest is not silent but attentive. Rivers are not merely flowing but carrying memory. The wind is not invisible, but shaped by traces of what has already occurred. The beings the Anomy refer to as Sapiri are not treated as products of imagination, but as a way of understanding life as something that extends throughout the universe, beyond the boundary between the visible and the unseen. Within this worldview, shamans are not figures of authority, but individuals willing to step beyond the assumption that humans stand apart from everything else. When they inhale yopo, they are not described as seeing visions, but as setting aside familiar ways of perception to enter another state of awareness, one in which the sense of self softens and the boundaries between humans, plants, and spiritual presence become less defined. Sapiri do not appear as supreme deities, but as expressions of a larger order that continually seeks balance. Shamans do not ask for blessings, but listen for warnings. They do not attempt to control the unseen world, but try to understand where human behavior may have fallen out of rhythm with the broader system. For the Anomy, illness is not understood solely as a physical malfunction, but as a sign that human awareness has become disconnected from the awareness of the forest. When animals disappear or weather patterns become unpredictable, these events are not seen as random, but as consequences of a relationship that has been disturbed. At this point, the question is no longer whether the forest has a spirit, but what happens when humans come to believe that they are the only ones who possess awareness. When we step out of the world of the Anomy, we return to a very different reality, one in which the forest is no longer seen as a living presence, but as a space that can be measured, divided, and utilized. In this reality, trees are calculated in cubic meters of timber, land is valued by its mineral reserves, and rivers become channels for resources serving growth and profit. Everything can be converted into numbers, as long as it delivers efficiency. The modern world does not enter the Amazon rainforest with hostility or malice. It arrives through machinery, permits, and concepts such as development, progress, and necessity. Forests are not cut down because they are hated, but because they stand in the way of economic objectives. Land is excavated not to destroy, but to unlock potential. Rivers carry mercury not because someone intends to poison them, but because the cost of such consequences often falls outside the field of vision of those making decisions. For the Anomy, however, these actions are never invisible or abstract. Each fallen tree represents a disturbance in the order of things. Each change in watercolor signals a damaged connection. Each sound of machinery in the forest is a reminder that the world is slowly losing its ability to listen to the very place that sustains it. What is described by others as environmental impact is experienced by them as a disruption of the forest's balance, a place where life has long been maintained through equilibrium rather than speed. We may not believe that the forest has a spirit. Yet the belief that only humans possess awareness has allowed us to act as if everything else were silent, inert, and expendable. We speak of the future, of growth, of rising numbers, while communities like the Yanomami are gradually disappearing, carrying with them a different understanding of life, one in which humans do not stand above the world, but exist within it. And perhaps the deepest collision lies not in the fact that these two worlds are different, but in the realization that the modern world has forgotten it once belonged to the forest as well, before learning to measure, claim ownership, and turn away from the very source that shaped it. Perhaps the Anomy will never step into our world. And perhaps they have never needed to. We often ask whether communities like the Yanomami can survive in the future. But maybe the question should be reversed. Can a world that no longer includes people who know how to listen to the forest, who know when to stop, who know how to bow before something greater than themselves, can such a world truly have a future? When this story ends, the Amazon rainforest is still there, quieter, more exhausted, perhaps. And whether or not we believe that the forest has a spirit, it continues to carry the memory of how it has been treated. Some memories need no words. Some consequences do not appear immediately. And some losses are only recognized when there is nothing left to hold on to. The Yanomami do not place themselves outside the world. They simply refuse to stand above it. And it is precisely this quiet refusal that makes them difficult to accept in an age that believes humans have the right to redefine everything that lives. Yet perhaps what they preserve is not an ancient way of life, but something we are slowly losing, the ability to recognize limits, and to accept that not everything exists to be owned. If one day the Amazon rainforest were to fall silent in a way that could never be reversed, that silence would not only mark the disappearance of trees, animals, or the spirits the Yanomami believe in. It would signal the loss of a reminder that humans once knew how to live as part of the world, rather than as outsiders observing and controlling it. And in that moment, we may come to understand that what truly matters is not whether communities like the Yanomami continue to exist, but whether we still have the capacity to relearn how to live without the need to dominate everything around us. The story of the Anomy does not ask us to return to living in the forest. It offers only a small but difficult question: if the forest is alive, Are we still living in a way that respects that life? And when the screen goes dark, when the sounds of the forest fade into silence, perhaps what matters most is not what we have learned about them, but what we begin to question about ourselves. If you believe that there are still many stories left untold in this world, that many cultures are quietly disappearing along with forests, rivers, and memories, then Tribe World Discovery is a place where the world is explored not through speed, but through respect. Follow Tribe World Discovery as we journey to places that maps cannot fully explain and histories have never completely recorded. And share a thought with us. What part of this story made you pause just a little longer? Each episode is about a tribe. Each tribe is a different way of being human.